What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing the Mint Instantkon RF70. The Instantkon RF70 is a rangefinder collapsible instant film camera. It takes Instax wide. It's a portable, beautiful camera with a built-in flash. It has pretty much full manual controls. It allows you to shoot from 1 second all the way to 1/500 of a second. It also shoots at bulb. You can shoot at pretty much an aperture control setting, which allows you to control the aperture, and everything else is done auto. You have a backlit option, which is the A+1, and then you have an A+- option. You have the ability to pretty much shoot the flash when you choose to by pressing on this button on the top to the right. Flash pops up. In my opinion, in terms of the flash, is pretty strong. I don't use it that much. I'm not really a flash type of photographer. I like shooting more natural lights, but I've realized that this flash is pretty strong, which is surprising because it's such a tiny flash. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's so small. It's like 1.5 inches maybe, and it's like 1/4 of an inch high. It's very small. Closes down. Surprisingly strong, very surprisingly strong flash. I've only taken like 3-4 shots with flash, but surprised by the results. Camera, it also has the ability to shoot PC sync right here. You can put like a sync cable from here to a flash. I haven't had the opportunity to experiment with that personally, but I'm sure it works amazing, especially since you could like manually focus and choose your shutter speed and your aperture. I'm sure it'll be great. Fortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. It has a screw mount shutter, like some old school film cameras, which basically allows you to screw on something like this, like a shutter button. I don't know if you can see that. You can also put like one of those wires that allows you to, do like long exposures and stuff, which this camera does allow you to do. I've only taken 1 long exposure with this camera or 2, and they've came out great. When it comes to shooting long exposures on instant film, though, you have to do your homework because you do have to expose the film a bit longer than what it's metered at. So, for example, if you meter a shot at let's say 1 second or 5 seconds, you have to add a bit more time to that to get a proper exposure. But I'm not too knowledgeable on that. I would recommend looking into it. What else can I say about this amazing camera? You can take double exposures with it. When you take double exposures, I think it's best to use the setting A-1, because what it does is it underexposes by 1 stop. So, if you're doing A-1, it comes out being, perfect exposure. Let me show you how that works. So I'm going to take a double exposure now. You just focus, take a shot. You heard how quiet that is. And take another shot. Both the same thing, it doesn't really matter. So you can take double exposures, you could even take triple exposure. Look, I'll shoot it again. See? 4th exposure. This picture is going to come out terrible. See? 5 exposures, and then when you're finished with all your exposures, you just crank this, which is like an old school looking film rewind. Like old school 35mm film cameras. It's similar to that. The action, pull it back, image comes out. Cool little way of cranking out the photo. And there it goes. This picture is going to be terrible, but I'm just giving you an example. What else can I say about this camera? Ergonomically, let's talk about ergonomics. The camera, it's pretty cool to hold. It has a nice grip here. It has a nice grip where you can put your fingers in. So it's nice to hold. It's not a really light camera, but it's also not heavy. Compared to an SX70, I would say the weight is somewhat similar, but it's nice to hold. So ergonomically, it feels fine. Your finger isn't going anywhere where it shouldn't be. just hold it like this, and when you're ready to take a shot, you know, you just take a shot, you know. So ergonomically, it works out really fine. It has camera straps here, so when you have it strapped, it basically hangs like this, which is nice. I do think it'll be cool if they added a strap here, so you could kind of hang it like this. When it comes to Instax wide, I think most people shoot it in the wide format. It's kind of weird shooting at the portrait orientation with this, and I think with the parallax, it could be a bit complicated, although I haven't had too many issues when it comes to parallax. I think the frame is actually pretty accurate. I'm sure there's somebody out there that actually owns this and knows exactly how to compensate for the parallax, but I haven't had any issue with it. Most of the time, if I take a picture of something and I frame it, it'll come out, you know, how I envisioned it, so I have no issue with that. It's certainly not an SLR, so what you see is not always exactly what you get. But I think even with cameras like the SX70 being an SLR, you know, you're not getting completely what you see. You know, sometimes you get more frame or less frame. So besides that, I'll run through some specs. The aperture goes from f5.6 all the way to f22. It goes in full stops, not half stops, not third stops, full stops. At 5.6, the image is a little soft if you're focusing at the closer focusing distances. For example, if you're focusing at 0.75 meters or 0.9 meters and you're shooting 5.6, the image is going to be a bit soft. That being said, it's not fully an optical flaw. It's more of focusing wide open with a large, with a large film. You know, you're gonna get a really thin depth of field, and you're focusing that close, and you're focusing at 5.6. So it's not really an optical issue. It's more of a hard to focus wide open issue, you know. But with practice, I'm sure there's people who've mastered it already. The camera is compact, closes down pretty easy. When you do close the camera, make sure you put it back to infinity, or else it won't close properly. You don't want to mess up the camera. You just press down here. There's a button. I don't know if you can see that. There's a button right next to the lens. Click it, put down some pressure, and then bang. That's it. Simple. And that's it, closed. And then to open it, there's a button here. Try to get it. You click it, pull it up, and then there's these two metal things similar to you'll see this like kind of like, I think the SX70 has something similar to it. So what you do with this is you just pull both sides up like that. Make sure it's straight on both sides, and then you're good to go. In terms of size and portability, I think this camera is really good to travel with. It's really good for everyday use. It's not something that's large and it's going to be annoying to hold or store, you know, like let's say something like the 1-step 2 where you have the Polaroid 1-step 2 where it's a big camera, it doesn't collapse and you sort of have to throw it in a bag, or if you're carrying it on your shoulder, it's like bouncing all over the place. That's not the case with this. There's been times where I've just collapsed it and put it in my jeans jacket pocket and it fits fine. Throw it in the bag, and I don't have to worry about having a special case for it because it's nice and thin. I can put it in like a laptop slot, you know, it fits perfectly. In terms of size, it's not that big. I know a lot of people have been asking me how big it is compared to other cameras, so I'll show you a comparison of it next to the SX70. There you go. That's the SX70 next to the RF70. As you can see, they're about the same size open. They're about the same size. Keep in mind they're both different formats. This shoots Polaroid square format. and this is shooting Instax. They're both capable of different things, both different companies, different cameras completely. I'm not comparing it, I'm just comparing the size. So as you can see, it's about the same size. And let me show you what they look like collapsed. As you can see, there you go. So yeah, it's a bit thicker. It's a bit thicker than the SX70 for sure. But in terms of height, if you can call it height or width, it's pretty much the same size. When it comes to an SX70 as well, you know, if I'm shooting with an SX70, I can just put it in my inside pocket. If I have a big pocket, or I could just, you know, jeans jacket pocket, something like that. You know, it's fine. You know, put it in, forget about it. Same thing with this, which I love. You know, I really don't have any downs to this camera. There's nothing that I can really say bothers me. You know, I'd only shoot to have 1/500th of a second, which is kind of an issue because, you know, when you want to shoot out and you're shooting with 800 speed film, you want to be able to sometimes stop it down. For instance, if I'm taking a portrait, I want to have to choose to shoot at f/22 to get sort of a point and shoot, you know, look, I don't want the background to be so much in focus. So I want to stop it down, let's say to 6.7 or f/8. The great thing about that is that they include this ND filter kit, and it comes with 3 ND filters. I'll show you that right now. It comes with ND2, ND4, and ND8, which allows you to stop down how much light is coming in. So that being said, there's also this awesome feature about the camera. It has an LCD screen here on the back, which usually tells you what your battery life is. Mine is good, which is surprising because I have 2 AA batteries in here, and I've shot about 60 to 80 frames in this camera. Battery life is amazing. If you were shooting in the daylight, and let's say you want to shoot wide open, and you half press, you get a red light here. You get a red light. I don't know if you can see that. You get a red light, which is basically telling you can't take the shot. And then in the LCD screen, it tells you 2. 2 being you should use ND2. I think that's amazing because there's times I want to shoot, and what I basically do is go look. If it says 2, I just take the ND2 filter. You screw it on. It doesn't really screw on. It's sort of like a bayonet. You just put it in and twist it. This is basically how you put it on. Put it in front, and then you twist it. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. That's pretty much the way you put it on. And you take the shot. When it tells you ND2, it usually says 2, 4, or 8, indicating which filter you should put on. And I used this yesterday on a portrait shoot, and it's amazing because it allowed me to shoot at apertures like 6.7, f/8, or f/11 as the sun was coming out. It's really hard to be able to shoot wide open, and I found that sometimes I needed to put on the f/8. I mean, not the f/8, the ND8 ND stop in the front of the lens, and it worked perfectly. The results I got were great. I didn't seem to see any issues in terms of quality loss. Everything seemed fine. It's overall an amazing camera. It is pricey. I think it's priced at about $8.99 right now, which is pretty expensive. But it gives you amazing results, and it also allows you to shoot in different ways. You could take so many double exposures. You could do long exposures, double exposures. It's good for parties because obviously it has the built-in flash. Although I think if you're shooting at parties, you're more likely to use a point and shoot than to use something like this because, you know, shooting with a rangefinder at a party might take some time, and, you know, that kind of takes away from the whole party scene. but it's a great camera. It takes some getting used to using a rangefinder. If you shoot on something like a rangefinder, like let's say a Leica, you know, and you pick this up, you're going to be used to using a rangefinder. For me, I'm more used to shooting on an SLR, so it's a bit more of a learning curve for myself. But that being said, I've had the camera for about 3 weeks, and I got down. The range finding took me about 2 days to get used to, so it's not that bad. It's not a deal breaker for sure. For those people out there shooting SLRs mainly, this is something that you could easily, you know, get used to. Like I said, it's a pretty pricey camera, but you know, you're paying for what you're getting. This is something that's made with care. It's made for people that, it's made by people that are passionate about what they love. It's made about people that are very passionate about the instant film community and passionate about instant film in general. It's called the RF70, so clearly there's some inspiration from the SX70 and the Polaroid company itself, what it used to be. So, you know, Mint definitely did a great job. That being said, I do want to thank Gary from Mint for letting me hold this for a few weeks and letting me review it. I really appreciate that. If there's anything I missed on this review, anything I might have skipped over, please let me know. And if there's any other questions you have about this beautiful camera, also let me know. I love it, and I hope to maybe one day get one of my own. That pretty much wraps up my review on this camera. Once again, thank you, Gary, for letting me hold this. And be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and ask me any questions about this. Thanks again.